Hey guys, I'm Deb. This is Bon. We're from Inspired Physio. We've been in the Hills area for over, I don't know.
10 years.
No, yeah, over 10 years. We'll be 12 this year.
Oh, no way.
Yeah, way. We mainly work with dancers, as you know, but we do see regular people. Dance mums are great.
Yeah, I see dance mums. I've seen some physio people. Who else have I seen recently? In the related fields.
Yeah, and some very just office workers with poor posture, etc., etc. But I'm going to open it to the floor before I share my slides with you. Is there anything in particular you guys want to hear about?
How do you cure back pain?
I know, breathe,
Increasing back pain.
increasing back pain. That's probably, we'll go into that too. I actually can't remember what's on my slides. We'll shortly find out. Okay, so how to cure back pain. Anything else? Anyone else?
I've always had I guess the balance of flexibility and strength, right? So I know I have flexibility to have high leg kicks, but I cannot hold my leg up high.
So this actually probably comes back down to your increasing back pain that's happening. Because often when you have the flexibility but no strength, you're not using your stabilizing muscles of your spine or your core to stabilize your spine. You're using your really big muscles to stabilize your spine and kick your leg. They're meant to only have one job, but you're making them do two.
There you go.
Yeah. So we will make a note. We'll talk about stacking and breathing because they seem to be a regular recurrence.
Very common, yeah. Lacking.
Regular recurrence in our current world. Anything else from anyone else, or should I just share some slides and we'll see where we go? Yeah? Okay. Let's see how one would do that. Share screen.
Yep. And then you should be able to select which screen.
We better open up the right thing first, right?
Share screen. Oh, yeah. Sick. Share. Did it do it?
Did it do it? Yes.
Yeah.
You just need to, yeah, there we go.
Hey, cute. Let's find out what's on it. Okay. Well, things like warm up, roll your muscles out and start small and get bigger. I mean, our teachers are pretty good at that. So I'm not as concerned about warming up because we're pretty good at making sure we ease into things and not just throw ourselves into it all. Especially being an adult dance school, we just don't bounce back as well, which is a little bit sad, but it is very true. After dancing, things like cooling down, rolling out, magnesium baths, but also I think the biggest thing is if something niggles, I've taught a lot of my clients over the past decade that as soon as something niggles, get on top of it. Don't ignore it. Even if it's something like, oh, I just twinged it, it'll go away. The likelihood as an adult, as you're getting less flexible, you have less collagen in your body, it's probably not going to go away, or it's going to go away. 95% of it will go. And then you just have this background 5% that you can't get rid of. And the longer you leave that 5%, the more it grows, the harder it is for us to get rid of it. Yeah, because often that 5% is the straw on the camel's back. Your body's just gone, actually, your functional dysfunction has broken. And most of us are functionally dysfunctional. Does that make sense? Yeah. We've learned to compensate and we work with it, but those compensations will eventually break down. So the other big thing that we thought we'd throw into this too is that the old
rice
is actually not, yeah, it's basically that. It's old. It's no longer relevant. So as much as they still teach it in first aid, it's actually not best practice anymore. And peace and love is the new best practice. And I wish it was taught in first aid now, but it's still not. The biggest thing is if you can't walk in it, you've probably broken it. But if you can walk in it, do it. Because you're better off keeping moving, even if it's not like I've gone full out dancing and kept dancing through it. But if you can walk on it, move through it, keep moving, you stopping, icing, and just doing nothing is what's probably going to make it worse and harder to recover from. So it's like when V stacked it in the big room the other night and hurt her ankle, but she was able to get up and keep moving. That's a really good sign that she hadn't broken anything, and it probably meant that her recovery was reduced, you know, by a week at least, if she had done something serious, but I think she had just strained a muscle. So she actually did good to get up. It's usually just the shock that makes you stop and sit still. Yeah. So things we commonly see, clicky hips. Hands up for clicky hips, all of us. Yeah. Knee pain. Knee pain is usually it's the thing that got stuck in between a dodgy ankle or like immobile or stiff foot, or a unstable hip or a shitty core. So the knee just got stuck in between. It's never usually the knee that's the problem. And Achilles injuries. That's mostly overuse. And in our case, we often see it as scrunchy toes. Achilles pain is so very rarely Achilles tendinopathy. It is always what we call a FDL or flexor digitorum longus tendinopathy. So what we hear is the actual complaint, the deep thud with kicking in Devon or second, pinching in the front of the hip and feeling stuck in the hip. Are we familiar with all these things? Yeah. Christy, is that your dog? Surely not. That is just too adorable. Look at that face.
It's one of my dogs. Sorry.
Oh my goodness. It's so sweet. I just got distracted.
No, that's okay.
So what we find with the clicky hips is that it's often an overactive psoas with a lack of deep control. Crystal, this is like flashing lights at you. This is see how in that picture of the psoas muscle, how it connects to the front of the spine and then into the hip. So it's responsible for bending you forward, but also lifting your leg. But because it attaches to the front of your spine and it's quite a big muscle, it's just really common that you will use that to stabilize your spine as well as kick your leg. And then the rest of the core stuff just doesn't get used. We also see overactive rect fem, which is the big muscle that attaches at the top of your hip bone and then goes down underneath the kneecap. So sometimes that can present as clicky or pinchy front of the hip, but it can also present as knee pain. And then if you're not using your core, your psoas and your rec fem are really fatigued, they've just been used so much, you then start using what we call your TFL, which often people will feel as their IT band, that side of leg pain, or that just really pinchy pain, which was you, Christy. This was a lot of you. She's like nods head if we could see her. So
yeah,
what
sorry, I couldn't unmute, but yes, the whole time you were reading it, I was like, that's me.
That's me. So what you do if you are getting those types of pain is make sure you kick at the level below pain. So if you ever notice me in class, when I'm dancing, my left leg will often be a lot lower. My psoas is really weak. My rec fem is really overworked from a really, I just never rehabbed that part of my hip after my hip surgeries when I had my cartilage repaired. So I'm working on it now, but it is something that I'm very wary of, that in class, that when I develop pain and I have to hold something, I try and keep it lower but turned out, so I'm actually using the right muscles and I can actually feel my turnout muscles in my butt working and my lower core working, making sure I breathe so that all those muscles have a chance to actually work. And also reducing the amount of dancing. And that's just, I would say that more to the high level kids, that are just on all the time. They're doing like a part-time job's worth of dancing in a week. So if they're having to run dances again and again and again, or they're working towards an exam, we tend to just say, okay, well, you can do that class, but you either keep it lower or you just mark these particular things. What we would treat that with for take home would usually be rolling out your quads, or rolling out the side of your hip or your butt, or doing some dead bugs. Do you guys know about dead bugs? Do you want to know more about dead bugs? You know about dead bugs? Okay. I think we'll come back to that as well when we come back to stacking. I'll get you to go through stacking and stuff.
Oh yeah, my section. Okay,
your section,
knee pain. Yay! I've been getting a lot of knees lately. A lot of knee treating. All right, so for our dance cohort, you may get knee pain around the kneecap or like just below. Okay, it might be constant, it might be sharp. It kind of depends on that, you know, what kind of movements you're doing, how much you're doing. If you've got a standing job and then you're coming to dancing after, maybe it's that constant ache. If you've been sitting down all day, you're not using your muscles, and then you're getting more sharp pain during your classes, things like that. Okay. It might be tended to touch. That's another thing as well, because that's your patella tendon there, the top of your shin. And that's sort of the same thing there, pain around the lower kneecap, patella tendon. So 2 and 3 are similar in that it could be sharp, but it could also be that constant ache. It could be below the knee. Some people get a little bit of pain above the knee too, by the way. I'll talk about more that on the next slide, I think, for, is it that one? Down. There we go. All right. So some of the causes of different types of knee pain. So this first one is weak or overactive quads. So there's actually really, that's 2A and 2B. We've got weak quads, right? So they're the ones that they're just not strong enough for the activity that we're currently doing. So for us dancers that are only doing 1 to 2 hours a week, maybe they're actually not strong enough for the activity we're asking it to do in that 1 to 2 hours a week. Maybe we do want to be supplementing this as management later on with a little bit more load, whether it be gym workouts and other things, to make sure it can support our dancing movements. Okay. The other reason could be the overactive quads. Now, this is actually related to what Deb's already said, which is the quads could be doing the job of 100 other things, whether that could be, you know, your core stabilizing. It's trying to grip on, maybe it's doing the muscles of the hip and trying to, some of the other muscles aren't doing their job, and it's trying to do everything because it's one of those bigger muscle groups. Okay. So there's sort of 2 reasons in one there. And that comes into part 2 a little bit as well. So using the quads instead of, so in ballet particular, where we have anything in turnout, but also, you know, your lyrical, maybe there's movements in your other styles as well that requires external rotation in particular. The quads often take over instead of your deep hip rotators. Okay. Now they're called deep hip rotators because it's very rarely that you're going to be able to get to them by a massage or by rolling out or by a physio treatment and all of those things. Sometimes you can tell you're activating them, and that might be about it because they're right deep in the hip joint. So it's hard to know if they're not doing their job. However, if your quads are overactive, it is highly likely, if you are a dancer and in these positions often, that the quads are trying to help. Okay, so that could be reason number 2. The other one, which is probably, I'd say maybe more for the younger people, I probably don't know. In ballet at the moment, if you are trying to turn out from your feet instead of your hips, you might feel the tug on the inside of your knees really common. I wouldn't say I'd see much of it on the outside, but often on the inside of the knee, where the feet are going further than where the hips are allowing you to go. So, and that's not to say that the hips don't have more range. It's just the range that you're currently using in class is not where you want it to be. And then you're trying to force those feet out. So ideally, if we can come back to sort of that management, is where your knees bend in a plie, demi or full plie, is where your feet should be tracking. So we're trying to go in that same direction. So we're not forcing the knees anywhere. You're right there. It's doing things. It's showing us
Oh,
things
yeah,
on the
there you go.
screen. Oh, thanks. Okay. And is there more? Oh no, I stuffed it.
No,
Nope.
there we
Okay.
go.
Oh, we're already
Oh,
on
no, hold
Achilles
on,
pain.
hold on.
Listen there.
There we go.
There we go. Okay. So a bit of management for quad/knee pain. Your quads are responsible for a lot of your jump sequences. So that comes into a lot of styles of dance. I know we don't currently have contemporary on the agenda at the moment, but that was a big one in contemporary, but also in your ballet, any of your leaps, grangettes, even the petty, the little movements, anything that requires you to jump and then land again. Okay, so if it's causing you pain, reducing the height is just one simple thing to try, see how that goes. If you do need a slightly longer rest, I know in class the other day, was it last week, Crystal? I said, we need more people in the class so we get more rest. And all our jumps were really like lazy and low and everything. It kind of pretty much shows that sometimes we actually need a longer rest. Us adults sometimes just go, nah, the muscles are about to like say no, whether we like it or not. Yeah, so that's one. And the same with the amount of dancing, again, maybe more towards the younger ones, but sometimes it is more to do with how much you're doing even in that one single class for these big muscles. Maybe you go, okay, I'll do it once full out, and then I'll just do like some walkthroughs or do mostly arms, things like that. So prioritizing, I guess, how you're feeling in the moment and how you're going to manage that hour is one way to manage. And other things to take home. So same thing when, we tell you to go home after a treatment. Roll out your quads. Foam roller is good. You could use, there's those new ones like the sticks.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
The massage stick.
I know some people have said, can I use a massage gun? I'm like, if you like, whatever works for you, that you can feel it in the sore bits for you. Same thing with things like glutes and other areas of the body as needed. It kind of depends on maybe what's lacking and what else is tight around as to why the quads may be pulling and tugging and things like that. And I guess I'll also come back to maybe technique as well. So stop forcing that turnout, please. And I'm going to come back to that one as well where I mentioned strength training. So if your quads are a little bit weaker and we don't realize that they're weak, you might find adding 1 or 2 strength sessions during your week somewhere else would be quite beneficial. If we come back to the reason of pain of like reducing height of jumps or how many jumps you do, because that's causing you pain, probably some squats and lunges and things like that outside of dance would likely assist you with those kind of movement patterns. So it might be good to sort of think about your week and see if you've got time for things like that. So strengthening.
Achilles pain. So when we get this one, everyone points to their Achilles because that's just where you can see it. So, or feel it. Usually we get pinching in the back of the heel when you're on rise. Pain with pointing the foot. So they can be 2 different things. It can be fine when you point your foot but pinch when you rise, or the other way, or both. It just depends on what the actual diagnosis is, I guess. Or your Achilles is tight and sore with stretching when you're doing your plie or your lunge. So it could be things like Achilles tendinopathy, which that's probably more leading towards more your overuse. So we probably see this in kids that are dancing a lot and they're just not giving themselves a break. In our case, we're probably seeing it as our tendons just don't recover as well as we want them to anymore because it's just really poor blood supply to tendons. So if you've twinged it, like let's say you run outside of dancing, you feel like you've twinged your calf or your Achilles, the time it takes to heal that is a lot longer for an adult just because it's such a terrible blood supply. So the ability to get collagen back into that tendon takes a lot longer. The one we actually see more often is a tibialis posterior tendinopathy. So big words. The reason why this often gets diagnosed for Achilles tendinopathy is because that tibialis posterior tendon runs behind the Achilles before it enters the foot. So it starts in your calf, slides down your calf, tendon goes behind the Achilles, and then it swings underneath your foot to support the arch of your foot. That one often happens or gets really pinchy when you dome your toe, when you crunch your toes instead of dome your toes. Because that's the one that gets pinched behind your Achilles. And then, yeah, just everyone's like, my calves are so tight. Your calves probably aren't tight. They're probably actually weak. And they feel tight because they're weak. That is definitely me. That is me
Probably
going,
me.
curse crystals rises, curse them, because I will not make it.
Yeah. So good.
Things to do to manage that sort of pain though is to reduce the height of rise. So instead of doing full height, we go to where there's no pain. That might be a half rise or quarter rise. Instead of pointing the foot, you would do a flexed foot so that you're not pinching on the tendon and continuing to irritate it. And again, you know, reduce the amount of dancing. That might just mean that you do more of the adage stuff versus the jumping stuff so that, again, you're not irritating the Achilles or the tib post. Till you've strengthened your calves or the muscle underneath your calf called the soleus, until you strengthen those a bit more. Things we often then recommend would be rolling out calves with your tennis ball or your massage stick or your massage gun, strengthening your calves with calf raises. So the picture we've got there where she's holding the ball is actually to help align the heels. You often see a sickle, but it's not a true sickle from the ankle. It's a sickle from the midfoot. So where your arches are on your foot often collapse outwards, and that's not working your tib post at all. If they're aligned the way they are in that picture, you are working your tib post. The other thing she's got there in her in the picture is the rubber band around her toes, and that's just to help correct and drive the big toe into the ground. Mums are always like, my kid's gonna get bunions. So this is one of the things that you can do to help prevent that, is to work those toe muscles that keep them aligned straight. And then there's toe yoga. Have you guys heard of toe yoga before? Okay, let's do some toe yoga.
You take your shoes off?
Yeah. Let's take your shoes off. You guys can try this. So I found out, like, I don't know, a couple years ago that even though Sarah's been working for us for like ages, I found out she never does doming or toe swapping with her actual toes, that she either shows the video or does it with her hands. Oh, she said she's worked on it. She's better at it now. Okay, I'm gonna put this on the floor so you can see my feet. Okay, so this is toe scrunching.
Yeah, we scrunch.
Scrunch. This is toe doming. So coming from the demi.
Sorry, can you guys move your feet back towards the wall a little bit? The Inspired Physiotherapy name is cutting off your feet.
Oh, is this better?
Is that any better there?
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
So toe scrunching. Oh, I've already got a cramp. That's right. Toe doming. So what we actually look for is that you get your toes spread, so you're nice and flat in your shoe, and then you're going to actually dome your toes so that they're nice and long. So the way to practice that is what we call doming, where you want to show these knuckles, but keep these ones straight. So the way we practice that is usually hands on these knuckles down here, and then suck the arch into that position. And you should really feel underneath your foot working versus the top or here, because what's that strengthening is those small muscles in your foot that control that movement.
You can be so much better at this.
I know, because we do it all day.
Teach it all the time.
If you cramp doing that, that is often because it's weak. The other one that's really good to do is toe swapping. So what that looks like is keeping your pinky toe and big toe knuckles on the ground.
You want me to talk?
You can instruct my foot.
So you're going to lift up the big toe straight in the air while keeping the 4 other ones down. And then you literally swap them over without lifting like the balls of the foot there. Okay. Or rolling.
Incorrect.
Yeah. Without rolling anywhere.
Incorrect.
So it's straight up and then straight swap. Okay. Again, I've taken some practice to get it to this point. So if you can't do it, it's normal.
So usually I get people to hold because it's the connection from your brain to your foot that takes a long time, especially as adults. It's a really long neural pathway to get from your brain through a jungle of other nerves to get to your foot. So we often just practice fingers first and then switch,
Yeah.
and then switch, and then switch. The other thing to help with balance as well is being able to drive that big toe and the ball of that big toe into the ground. It's called the tripod foot. So you're wanting to keep that big toe down, have these toes relaxed, keep that pinky toe knuckle on the ground and the middle of your heel. And if you're balancing, that should, I'm cheating because I'm looking down, but that should give you a good amount of movement through the foot, but keep you balanced. So if you find that you're on rise or trying to do an arabesque and you're losing your balance, that's often because you're not driving the big toe into the ground. It's not doing its job. So this part of the toe yoga is probably the more important part, but it is good to be able to control that, because what having this flexibility is with being able to lift your toes is that when you're on rise, they can stay flat and they're not scrunched up in your shoe. Because what I explain to kids then, as all people going on point, is that we want you to be able to rise to your full height and then be able to dome from there. So that's what bends the shoe in the block. It's keeping those toes nice and long. Watch this.
Let's see if we can get our pretty faces back.
Old lady, get back up. Oh, okay. Let's find out what's on the next slide.
I don't know.
I don't know.
Oh, that was it.
Oh, surprise. There's a cute little make an appointment one. That's actually changed too.
Doesn't look like that anymore.
No, literally changed like last week.
There you go.
So we talked about stacking. I think I made an Instagram post on this too, where y'all think, stand up straight, and this is what you see. Yeah, this is not straight. This is why your back gets sore. And this is why your heel gets sore, because you're actually just loading all of this. And dancers have that really point of least resistance. This is how we stand. Yeah, so we just load that lower back. I would wash the dishes and I'd be like, why is my shirt wet? And it's literally because I'm holding up furniture with my hips. And I'm just like, wait, I actually need to stack my hips on top of my feet and not be leaning off my hip flexors, which are then getting sore as well. Yeah. So do you want to talk about how you correct the stacking?
Oh, yeah. So, well, yeah, I'll start down here, I guess. So, I've only got one shoe on, so I feel really weird. Hang on a second. I'm going to actually take my other shoe off.
Do you guys
Okay.
want to stop sharing screen? Then we can see you.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
That's clever. How do I do? Oh, stop share. Okay.
there we go.
Oh, hey.
We're back. Oh yeah, we don't need the slides anymore. Okay, so part of stacking is getting your pelvis in the right place over your feet first off. So that might be finding where the balance is. Are you heavy in your heels? Are you heavy in your toes? Find that spot in between. Then you've got, is your pelvis either forward, anteriorly rotated, or back? We want to be somewhere right in the middle, okay? Sometimes you can tell by your lower back if it's overly forward, so anterior, or overly posteriorly rotated if it's too flat. Some people have that opposite. So you want to find that in between. The other things that can happen is if we're leaning forward through the rib cage, we actually want to bring it back and stack it on top of the pelvis so that it's also lined up. And then you've kind of got the extra bit. So your shoulders, depending on how your shoulder blades are kind of built, structured, mine tend to round a lot, but if I actually correct all this and actually lift up slightly through my rib cage, my shoulders tend to stack better over the rest of me. So again, this is very conscious. If we just sit into everything, I know I tend to have this often, but if I stack everything, I feel more balanced. I'm less pressure in the sore bits that get sore, hip flexors. So that's stacking. There are other, nuances depending on if you've got tilts and stuff.
If you want to do it in sitting, just while you're sitting there, rock on your butt bones. You'll feel the hard bones in your bum. Yeah. So you want to sit up on that. What that'll typically then do to dancers is this. So then you want to sit back onto those bones, and then you want to close down your ribs on top of that. So you'll feel slouched. You'll feel like this, but you've actually just come to neutral. And then from there, just open your shoulders. And you should feel a little bit of lower tummy come on when you do that. And then once you've sort of found that position, that's kind of where you want to be in for most of your day. So you would shuffle your bum right into the back of the seat. For support, I often say, you pass a rolled up towel. Do it in you.
Big one, little one.
That's good. Okay. Face sideways.
This way.
Yeah. So bum in the back of the seat. Thanks.
Okay. I'm on
Not
wheels.
this way, guys. Because then what that happens is you can then open your shoulders across it, but you're not too ribby out. Yeah, you're actually then pushing your ribs into this. And then if you're like me, because I end up leaning forward over my computer because I get lazy, I get into it, this will fall. And then it'll be like, oh, wait, I'm sitting terribly. I should lean back again. Yeah. So let's talk about breathing. Do you want to talk about 360 breathing?
Oh.
Band.
All right. So if we pretend that our lungs are like two balloons, when we breathe in, they should inflate evenly. So when we say evenly, that is top, bottom, left, right, front, back. Now, a lot of us actually only really breathe kind of forward or maybe up. Okay. Very few of us know how to breathe out or like down and back. Okay. To get the full effect, the 360 in our breath. Now, actually, Sarah did a good post about this not too long ago, I think on the socials.
On the Instagram.
But if you don't have a band, you can, if you've got the flexibility, you want to basically try and get around the base of those ribs at the back and the side. But if you've got a band, you can wrap your band around your lower ribs as kind of flat-ish as you can. No, one's got a thing, one's not. You can cross it over. Okay. And what this is doing is as you take your deep breath in, so if I go, and I can feel that I've mostly just gone up and forward, okay? But if I keep going, my lower ribs will start to press into the band at the back and at the sides. It encourages a deeper breath and you're more conscious of it, okay? If I get to the top and then I'll go, and it also then helps you breathe all the way out again. So that's kind of the concept of the 360, going in all directions. And this is like really good feedback. You want to go slow, okay?
The thing that's most important with the 360 breathing is that if you think about your core as a Coke can or a can of drink, so the top of your core is actually your diaphragm. The bottom of your core is your pelvic floor. And then you have the muscles on the front and the muscles on your back. So if you break that can like this, you know, when you step on a can and it gets that kink, yeah, then, you know, you're not really stacked and you can't really balance with that. You have to counterbalance somewhere else. The reason with the breathing too is that you need to use all sides of your core. If you're using a high percentage of front, it's usually a high percentage of back really for dancers, and you're not using much front or you're not using your diaphragm at all, you know, it's not ever going to feel stable. So it's in things like turns, for instance, where you feel like you're going to fall backwards or you just, you know, you're coming off the sides of your turn. It's often because you're not stacked and you're not breathing. Breathing is the biggest thing to help with balance or anything you're doing in class that's hard. If you breathe out, it's often then becomes easier. But most of us are breath holders. We're just so in it all the time that we forget to breathe out. You'll be like this and suddenly you drop your shoulders and go, oh, and you're like, oh, shit. When was the last time I took a breath? So it is something we have to actually consciously do, because in this day and age, we just don't. And then we do our recreational activities and go, why am I so out of breath? Oh, because I didn't take a breath that whole exercise. Yeah. Do we have any other questions from the floor?
I have one.
Yes.
In terms of stacking, for those of us that are a bit more blessed in the chest or butt area, because I always feel like that makes me feel so much more off balance, even when I know my spine is straight.
Get a better bra. No, I'm kidding.
Well, actually, no, that is
That
what-
is actually, you know what though? I
Hmm.
did have a client a few weeks ago, complained of back pain for the past 6 months. I looked at her. I was like, when was the last time you had a bra fitting? And honestly, she said she couldn't remember, but she knew she needed to do it. She was hanging, and so it sounds, I mean, we're all ladies. She was hanging really, really low. The next time I saw her, she'd been for a bra fitting. She was up where I thought she should have been. And she's like, my back pain disappeared. I was like, cool. Literally, because it's so heavy forward, right? She was then like a pregnant lady having to counterbalance it. So I get what you're saying. It will be for you probably a little bit of extension, but not too much, but having to really strengthen the lower tummy so that you can counter the extension. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, a great racer back bra, you know, hold them in tight, double it up.
They can confirm during jumps, I am
Just try not
holding.
to punch yourself in the face
Yeah.
with them, right?
Yeah.
She does sautés
Like
like
this?
this.
You're like arms in first.
Oh.
I have a couple of questions.
Yes.
So the toe yoga, that is so exciting. I love that. One thing I had a physio tell me, I think, or the internet, could have been YouTube, to getting a towel and then pulling it towards you with your toes, is that equivalent to the doming thing you were telling me about, or is it a little different?
Little
Little different.
different. Because what that's doing is actually taking in the crunching. So we don't actually want the bottom knuckles of your toes or your nails of the toes to come under. We want them to stay visible the whole time. So with the towel, it often then makes those nails come under, which then uses the muscle that'll pinch behind the Achilles.
I think
Okay,
maybe
I will
general
not tell any
population
students to
may-
do that.
Yeah, maybe more general population, or if they don't have a whole lot of range in their toes, maybe you could give that cue. But I think for us dancers and those particularly ballet or needing balance and things like that, probably more that doming one is a bit more, specific to us. So
I guess
Do you have a video anywhere on your channel to show that close up? Because that was really helpful, but I'd love to be able to share that with my students.
I think on the Instagrams.
maybe we
I'm
can
almost
repost something.
Yeah, I'm almost certain it'll be there somewhere because our kids, we're just constantly doing it for pre-point assessments.
Yeah.
I think the other thing to think about, and I've actually encouraged a few parents with their teenagers to be able to do this, is how wide your toe box is in your shoes. So I know Vonnie's got a smaller foot. Actually, no, I think we're like the same midget size. But I see how this shoe comes in, it tapers in. So it's actually making those toes come, I can't do it, inwards like this. Yeah.
Mm.
See how mine stays
Mine
out?
are better than yours, okay.
So I've chosen a wide toe box shoe so that I can actually spread my toes out. The other thing that this particular shoe does is that every standard shoe that you find in a shoe store will have a 0 to 2 mil, maybe even 3 mil lift in the heel. So it has a heel rise that you don't even know about. This is a 0 heel drop, so it's flat all the way through. Still has cushioning, but it's flat all the way through. I had to change to these because when I started running again, I started getting Achilles pain. It was purely because of the heel raise. Once I dropped the heel raise out, my Achilles pain went. I didn't even have to get tortured by the girls. I just changed my shoe. So wide toe box, so I could spread while I was running, but also 0 heel drop so that my Achilles wasn't shortened while I was running. Because you think about it, right? When we're dancing, we're basically barefoot. There's 0 heel rise when we're dancing. So I find a lot of the dancers struggle and don't realize that it's that in their shoe that's causing the problem. Or it's this. They're like, why can't I get my doming? It's because you wear shoes that are like half the size of where your toes should be. I
I
don't know
was
what else
talking
to
to
tell
my
you.
students about this last night. I
were
told them
you?
how very similar thing, because a lot of them, they're absolutely new. They've never done ballet before. They have no idea what to expect when they go for even a soft shoe fitting. I said, don't make sure that when you're getting fitted that you don't have any crossover in your toes, because I feel like depending on where they get their shoes, they might not get told this. I said, make sure that when you're on demi that you can still spread your toes out, because if you're feeling like this, you're never going to be up and be able to balance on rise, because your toes you've got no platform to stand on, and it will feel uncomfortable and you get cramping and all of these things. And they're just like, oh. So that's very good. It's very gratifying to hear you confirm this, because I would have been making it up, you know.
I'm like, that's excellent advice, V. Excellent.
But to be fair, I think these more barefoot style shoes are still coming into the mainstream. So a lot of people don't know. I mean, I can get away with this because I do have very skinny feet. So I don't have any crunch on my toes. But if you are having issues in, outside of, say, dance and more longer term stuff, maybe have a look at your footwear.
Yeah.
See if they can help. Yeah.
It's the ballet flattened heels that kills me. When I see the ballet flats coming, it's also Converse. Kids in Converse. Oh, they just weren't built for that. Yeah. What else was on your list, V?
I can't remember now because I've distracted myself with this one. There was another thing that I knew that it was like other advice that I'd gotten elsewhere that I wanted to confirm with you. If I think of it, I'll mention it, but I can't remember right now. I'm sorry. I think it was like a tool that another one where it had been something I'd been recommended, but I
don't get a foot stretcher.
Sorry?
It's not foot stretchers.
No.
Don't do that.
No, that's okay. If I think of it, I'll message you privately about it because I can't remember now. Which is a bugger.
Group and we can all read
All
it.
benefit from reading. Yeah.
Yes.
That's a good idea.
We did talk about dead bugs before. We didn't go through that.
Oh, yeah.
But it was kind of to do with stacking, really.
Yeah. So I find a lot of people cheat with dead bugs, and I know a lot of people use them for core. So the way she's like, what's a dead bug? Okay, wait, let's go to our gym area. Let me show you. Let's do a diagonal. Okay, show us a dead bug, Von.
Oh, I'm terrible at it. Which way do I want to go? This way?
Yeah. Okay, so we're using this generally to make sure that we can use the top of our core and breathe with our diaphragm whilst doing something else. It's all great to breathe, but you need to actually coordinate that with movement. We're also doing that to get our lower tummies on, but what it's also cueing is actually getting our back down, our ribs down, so we're not flaring. So show us the cheat. What do people always look like when we do these?
Arch, like this. And then I've got nothing. I've turned everything off.
Because then nothing's secure, right?
Yeah.
So if you flip Von upright when she's all arched and stuff, imagine if she was doing a turn and she's, arms in first, she's ribs are lifted, lower
Leaning
back arched.
sticking my booty out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's the perfect way to fall out of a turn or even fall out of a balance. So I've found that when I do a balance at the bar right now, even if I'm in attitude or arabesque, I want to actually bring my ribs down on top of it, because I think I want to counterbalance with the arch, but it just makes me fall backwards. So I tend to make myself feel like I'm slouching by bringing my ribs down, and then I can actually hold the balance a lot better. The way I get people to do this to make sure they're not cheating. So this goes under the ribs. This goes under the lower back. Lower back, please. Thanks. Okay. Get your
You're gonna
position.
test me now.
All right. Tension. So if she's not flat under there, she's gonna fling me.
Do you want me to fling you?
Don't fling me yet.
No,
See if you can
not
actually
yet.
do a couple.
Yeah, I'll test me out.
So she's holding it down, which is pretty good.
Whether or not I'm breathing is another question.
Well, she's talking, so she's probably not breathing. Let's be
Yeah.
honest now.
And my hips starting to click too. So
Yeah.
something else is switching off.
Yeah. So the clicky hips is coming because her core's already fatiguing.
I
Yeah.
was about to ask about the clicky hip.
Hips. Yeah.
Yeah.
So if she were to lose the ribs or the lower back and get that flared arch again, she would be cheating. And that's how I
What
check.
about with hip injuries, but having like a pre-existing hip injury, but having it click in and out? Is it any suggestions?
Depends what's clicking. I'm usually actually not that concerned about clicking unless it's causing you pain. Clicking only is really a concern if you're like, it hurts every time it clicks. It's kind of like me in play aids at the start of ballet. Everyone can hear it. And I'm like, sorry, that's me. Sorry. It'll stop soon once I'm a bit warmer. My bad. Yeah. Any other questions? Do we forget about to talk
I
about?
remembered the thing.
What is it?
Oh, it's the thing.
It was about breathing. So I went through my therapy
Yes.
for my anxiety. I was taught about circular breathing or something very similar to what you guys are talking about. And one of the tips that my therapist told me was to, when you breathe in, push your tummy out, because most of us naturally do the opposite, as in like suck our tummies in to breathe in, which doesn't make sense.
Mhm.
So to expand our rib cage properly, consciously think about push my tummy out as I breathe in. It automatically opens up your rib cage at the bottom so that you can more consciously take a full breath. Do you think that is something that will work, or am I skipping something? Will it be enough to do that? Does that fit with what you guys were talking about?
I think it's actually probably one of the ways we start cueing people. It's a good way just to get a tactile and even visual cue to know that you're breathing deeply. I think it needs finessing as you get better at breathing. And that's where, the banded breathing comes in, where you're starting to get the other directions of breathing. And I know that I actually get a cramp when I try to expand the back of me when I'm trying to breathe. So, yeah, it's a hazard of building boxes and flat packs currently. Because I'm constantly bent this way, right? So it's and then if I'm not bent this way, I'm compensating by arching the other way. My back is just flat. So choosing different positions to work on the breath. So it doesn't always have to be, you want to think about the whole 360, but then you can focus on particular sides as well. So we do it like the crocodile breathing, where we lay on our tummy and we focus on just pushing the ribs up to the ceiling. So I can just focus on getting my breath in that direction. We do it in side lying, so we can focus on getting the ribs up towards the ceiling, and then you switch to the other side and do the other side. So it is a good cue to begin with, but there is a lot more to get all of the ribs to expand at the same time, because when you belly breath, you're often only just expanding the front.
Yeah, okay, thank you. Is the idea of this to practice it regularly so that when you're dancing, you'll just do it automatically? Is that the end goal?
Yeah, it's often we give people, I explain it to clients that, we bring something up to your consciousness because you've developed a compensation that is now in your subconscious. So I'm going to bring this exercise to your consciousness, where you're going to think about it whilst you're doing it. And as you get better at it and stronger at it, it'll drop back into your subconsciousness, and then you'll be able to just do it while doing other things.
Okay, that's so cool. I just thought of one more thing.
Oh,
Do
yeah.
you have when I was very young, when I first started ballet, I had a teacher who was with Australian Ballet for a little while, and she brought in one of the dancers from Oz Ballet to our class to give us a lesson purely on how to engage your core.
Mhm.
And it was awesome.
Mhm.
And I wish I had recorded that, because when I was 13, I didn't care. And it was golden. Everything that he taught us was incredible. Do you have any videos like that? Because because I'm so out of practice, and it's been so long since I had that guy explain the technique of how to engage your core and how to start as a beginner, knowing nothing about how to use your core. Do you have something that breaks that down so that I can then either send my students a video or relearn that myself so that I can teach it?
I would have to flick through my Instagram. However, if you guys have ideas for content that would really help you, or you want to solidify stuff that you've learned from today, drop them in or message me, or drop them on our Instagram, like DM the Instagram post, and we can create some content, because I love when people give me content ideas. It sucks to have to think about them. I just don't know what you guys want to know. So I'm just kind of tell the girls, what have you been giving out this week? Can we make some content on that? So yeah, having a list of things that you would like to see that we may not have already covered on the Instagram, or you want covered again in a different way, yep, we can definitely do that.
Thank you.
That's okay. Oh, and if you have people in your class, we do have a Facebook page too. So I got hacked a few
Send
years
them on.
ago. So the like is quite low. You have to look for the current page. That's all.
Okay,
I was gonna say, oh,
very good.
I was gonna say you should probably you can share it on our page.
Okay.
Well, I'll share it anyway. Yeah, because I did notice you had two.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, that was a fun year. The year my personal page got hacked a few years ago, but it meant I lost my business page.
that's annoying. Yeah. I have a question. You talk about supplementing just like our once a week dance lessons with extra strengthening, whether it be gym. If you can't afford to go to the gym, time or money, are there exercises you can do at home that would help? And
Yeah.
what's up?
Always. Absolutely.
So
the
what
numbers
would
are your
help?
friend?
What would help with like quad strengthening that you had mentioned? What's something that you can kind of do, whether you're like folding laundry, washing the dishes. I love sharing about those sort of exercises that you can just do around the house.
Oh yeah, the in between chores kind of things. Do
Yeah.
10 squats, things like that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
squats and lunges are probably your key ones that don't need any equipment whatsoever. Okay. Stair climbing is another one because you're going to be using, again, all your big muscle groups to get a bit more focused and we call it progressively overloaded because we're dancers and we want to be able to do things like jumps and things. You might need to add resistance. So that's where we add bands. If you've got things like Pilates balls to add, say, inner thigh work at the same time. Yeah, lots of toys. If you've got things like hand weights, I gave out to one client the other day. He had no equipment, but we needed to start loading his spine for stuff. I got him to just load a backpack with whatever, with books. And now he's either holding it on the front for like front squats, or on his back for like back squats. So you can find things around your house. You don't need equipment necessarily. But yeah, if you wanted a bit more specific, we could probably try and do it again, a post on that. Yeah, so, but yeah, definitely big muscle groups, squats and lunges and variations of those. Yeah.
What's if you don't mind demonstrating, the correct way of doing a squat? Because we see so many.
Well, what kind of technique have you been asked about, or what have you been told is not correct?
What have you seen on the TikToks?
Yeah, what is not correct? That's a good question.
I've
So
seen
there's always the Asian squat, which is very different to what you do as a gym squat. But I think it's really what I see a lot on Instagram is people like the knee placement. Like people might squat and not be consciously thinking about wobbly knees, how knees fall in, fall out. And yeah, just having that sort of like mindful control is, yeah, I guess what you see a lot when people are just doing squats, just, yeah, whether with weights or without weights.
to add on to that, I've also seen people like putting blocks and stuff under their heels. Squats.
Yeah. So the blocks under the heels is usually because of a lack of ankle range, or sometimes hip mobility. So if I'm squatting heavy, I squat in Olympic weightlifting shoes because kind of because I've had 2 hip surgeries. So I need to actually change the weight placement of where the load is going. And that's why I went back into heels. I do have the ankle flexibility to get down. Like I can Asian squat. That's plenty fine. We can Asian squat. That's good. But under load to be able to not do this with my back and to keep the load centered, I need the heel. In terms of instructing people, I will typically, my main pointers are, we're back to losing the shoes. That sucks again.
Hang on, do you want the floor?
Yeah.
Hang on.
So my main pointers are making sure that you drive your toes into the big toe into the ground. That's a big one. Connect that stability. I actually get people to start more parallel. Not all hips will allow people to stay parallel. It's just so I can then instruct the knees. Because if people start out here, which will be a lot of us because we're dancers, and knees will end up here.
Under load, that
Under
in
load,
particular.
yeah.
Yeah.
And to instruct them to match their knees to their toes, it's really hard for their brains to connect the two. So I start parallel. I say, drive the big toe. Knees will go actually over the toes. So I want to be able to say the big toe, see the big toe on the inside of my knees, not if I'm knees collapsed in, I can't see my big toe anymore. And then I tell people to sit to a chair, stand up again. That's where I start. That's how I teach my old people class on Fridays.
Yeah. So there's not one right way.
And it will vary for people.
Yeah, depending on your anatomy, your flexibility, mobility. But yeah, there are more ideal positions depending on your body build and things like that.
Yeah. And even like things like where do your hip sockets face? So under load, my squat is quite a wide stance just because of where my hip sockets face. Any other way, it ends up pinching something and,
Doesn't feel good.
It's gross. It feels yucky.